Thanks for watching this video. Today I interview Joe O'Neill from Fantasy Flight Games. He's one of the designers, and we're going to talk through some questions, and at the end we will be going over 2 rare spoilers for the next set, Shadows of the Galaxy. All right. Well, thank you for joining us today, Joe. Yeah, I guess before we kind of dig in, I have like a ton of different questions. I have like technical questions about sets. I have general questions about lore and things like that. And we have some spoilers to share today, which I'm really excited, which I'm saving for the end intentionally. Yep. So everyone has to watch the whole time. But I guess what I actually wanted to ask about you is like, what got you into game design? How did you end up at FFG? Like, what's your story and kind of like your education background? I love hearing that. I love hearing when somebody's like, I went to school for this and then I'm actually here. So yeah, what's your story?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for having me. Really excited to be here. And yeah, my story, like a lot of people at FFG, is exactly what you said. Went to school for something completely unrelated, fell into this and then into that. So I studied biology in college because I loved animals, but games have always been a passion ever since I was a kid. So I've always kind of been working on projects in the background. Realized I wasn't really into science, went to Tokyo for 4 years, taught English over there, absolutely loved it. Met my now wife there, and we moved back to the States and tried a few different jobs, and then I saw an opening at FFG. I'm like, I really hope this can come through, and it did, and I've been happy ever since.
That's so cool. Yeah, my brother actually taught English in a foreign language in Tokyo as well for a couple of years.
Awesome.
So he's actually back in the States now, and he's going to eventually go back, but he loves Japan, and that's really cool. What games did you play growing up, and like what games did you get into? Like
when I was super young, collecting and trading and even playing cards when I was like 6 years old, when everyone else on the playground was just trading and I knew the rules and no one else did. And
yeah.
Eventually finding more and more people who did know the rules of the games and getting more into it through that. I grew up on the original Nintendo, love all kinds of old platformers, and to this day still go through all those kind of indie games that are high challenge and action RPGs, fighting games, whatever I'm into all different kinds of games.
That's awesome. You want to play Smash Ultimate later? I'll have to give you my Smash.
Oh yeah, I anytime.
I'm a Sonic main, so I'm a bit degenerate. I'm a Sonic main, so...
No, I understand. We've got a bit of an internal competition for who's the best on the team too.
Yeah, so like let's get into some just general questions about game design. So what was the thought process that you were able to ascertain why the game has 6 factions? Why not 4? Why not 5 like Magic, right? Magic has 5. Why not 7? Like what was about 6 that kind of you guys landed on that?
Yeah. So exactly what you said. I wasn't here right from the beginning, but I still know a lot of our philosophy and what the senior devs reasoning behind a lot of these initial choices are and why we've stuck to them. So for the factions, we have the hero and villain. Immediately we knew we wanted that for important thematic reasons, and it's an interesting way to balance the game as well between 2 major halves that are very difficult to mix. Then from there, honestly, it was just kind of a sweet spot. 3 felt like too few, where too many cards in a set were doing the same thing because they're all pushed into the same section of the color pie. 5 had the opposite effect, where there weren't quite enough cards to get the ball rolling in each color, especially when the game first launches and there's only one set. So 4 felt like that sweet spot in addition to the hero villain. So thus 6.
Yeah.
And as the card pool grows, like those other problems are going to be less and less prevalent. So
I actually really like that. I feel like in other games that have, let's say, 5, there's always like, why isn't there purple? Or like, or they might, that game in question might make a pseudo 6 color for a specific set, but then it kind of goes away. And I do like that. I do feel like the 6 factions. I guess another game design question that, and some of these were actually I sourced from like local people in the community. I don't have names. Yeah, so I kind of asked some of my buddies who play with me and at local game stores. Sorry if I didn't shout out your name if I picked your question. I didn't have that much attention to detail. But this is one question the community definitely wants to know an answer to is, was there ever, I guess, what was the reasoning behind the second player not getting a boon for going second and not having the initiative, or a sort of downside for the first player not going, maybe you don't get to draw an extra card or like something like that? I guess, what was the reasoning behind that to have like a counter advantage to the initiative?
Yes. So of course, having the initiative can be a very big advantage. There hasn't been, since the initial initiative design was decided, there hasn't been much consideration for a handicap or comeback mechanic in that regard. Because through a lot of gameplay, we have discovered that there are so many different decks and archetypes that have a very specific turn one plan of either maybe playing 2/1 drops, or my deck actively does not want the initiative because I'm trying to do some shenanigans with Tarkin Town or something like that.
Yeah.
Where the games kind of branch off on their own anyway. And this becomes more and more true as more sets get added too. So
that's what I thought. I thought that right now it feels like you almost always want to have the initiative, because if you have the initiative, you can just claim the initiative and do nothing. Or if you want to have the initiative, you actually get to play a card and then claim initiative. So I had a feeling that it's just because right now the card pool is limited that we're feeling the effects of that in a greater way. So that does make a lot of sense.
No, you'll see some interesting decks popping up, and there's some cool set 2 ones that I wish I could mention, but we'll see.
Yes, I know. Well, we do have some spoilers, so we get to talk about some set 2 stuff. That's really cool. Speaking of set 2, we all know, we saw on the live stream, I believe it was Tyler who pointed it out, that there's 262 cards, and he's like, that's a caveat. Any chance you could explain what those extra 10 cards are? Why they're in the next set? Why is that set 262? Is it actually an additional 10 unique cards, or are we going to see something else going on?
I can't get into too much of the specifics on that one.
Yeah.
But one thing that I can say is for each set going forward, don't expect a exact static number. It's not going to be the exact same every single time. So you'll see that fluctuate a little bit. And right now we're at 262, and that can be for a variety of reasons, either logistical or balance, or just trying to get something into the set that we wanted to make sure was in there. So
yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I think looking at other TCGs who are pretty consistent, I think it's totally fine to add an extra 10 cards. I don't think it messes with draft that much or sealed very much. Definitely is nice because I really like Premier. I like the constructed format. So having 10 extra cards is really nice because now I get 10 extra cards I get the deck build with. So I appreciate that. Another question I have here is, it was shared by many of the game designers that there was a desire to have a flatter power level across commons, uncommons, rares, and legendaries. Does this make it less likely that we'll have strictly better cards in the game due to there being a larger delta between rarity?
Yeah, so this is something that, like you said, a lot of the designers have touched on this. It's something that we all do share, where we want there to be accessibility for a lot of the powerful cards. Some really good cards are commons and very easy to grab in packs, and you'll get a full play set very fast. One way that we like to divide up the rarities rather than power level is by complexity, or by how unique the effect might be. If it's a brand new type of effect that we've never put into the game before, this might be on a rare or legendary. Doesn't mean it's strictly better than a common. We want to make sure that anyone, no matter when they jump into this game, or based on price or any factor like that, they can make a decent deck and still have a good time playing.
Yeah, that's really cool. I used to play Magic. I played Magic for 15 years.
Yeah.
And I actually ended up quitting every format of Magic because, besides Pauper, which was commons only.
Yeah.
Because it just was too expensive. And I think that's an element that I've heard about this game, and I've seen it. I mean, there's I think at one point the Sabine Green deck, if you were to buy the whole deck online, was like $60. And it was like a really powerful deck that was shared around. I was like, that's really cool. Like in Magic, if you play standard, like a tier 1 Magic deck would be hundreds of dollars when I played. So I can't speak for the current meta or anything like that. So seeing that was really, really cool, because I think you experience that not just when you open packs, but you experience that in competitive play too. And it democratizes it a bit more, where it's not about, the person who spends the most necessarily that wins or something like that. I really like that.
Yeah, no, we've been designing so far in advance. Like, my brain is on set 5 and 6. That when set 1 was released, I go to the pre-release events and open packs. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's a common. I forgot like how easy and accessible like these really good cards are, and it's always a fun surprise. So, and I'm still playing a lot of those set 1 cards even down the line in future metas, and the variety of cards that we've introduced have made those feel a little bit more niche in a way, where I'm like, oh, this card's better in this situation, that card's better in that situation. But yeah, I'm still looking into the common pool for every set as I'm testing future sets, which is a really good feeling.
Wow, that's really cool. That's exciting. I will say, this is just my personal opinion. I love that there's a game that has a compelling IP that I'm personally into. I feel like there's other games I've played where I've loved the gameplay, but the IP was kind of like, it doesn't really matter to me. And so the fact that you have like an excellent IP in Star Wars and then an excellent game, it makes for an amazing combination. Which kind of gets me into my next question. It's kind of wrap up this section. So I found Star Wars Unlimited probably back in December of 2023 into January 2024. So within the last 3-4 months. And I was playing a lot of other games. I played like Star Realms. I love that game. I just jammed Star Realms. If you guys are watching this video, go check out Star Realms. It's like a board game. Super fun. And I played Magic. I was going to pre-releases, but I was just really feeling like I needed something new. I watched a video on Star Wars Unlimited because there was a bunch of releases going on. You guys, FFG was sharing more stuff about the game because it was kind of very secretive. You guys were going to conventions and playing those starter decks. So then I started to think, okay, started watching stuff, started learning more about the game. And once I kind of like learned about the game, I like knew that this game was something special. Like I can't exaggerate that enough. Like, this game has elements of some of the best TCGs. I've played them all. I grew up playing Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, Magic, and it's like it has color pie, it has combat system, it has interaction, it has strategic thinking, decision making, it has flavor, like it has all these things. So I guess you came into set 2, but obviously you were there when set 1 launched, right? Because you went to pre-release and you were already designing cards.
Yeah.
So at what point for you personally, and even if you want to speak for the whole team, if like a memory or something, did you guys realize that you had like one of the greatest TCGs designed in the last 15 years? Because I know you guys know this. I'm just going to be honest. Like, the game is that good. So like, when was that moment in designing? Like, have you heard historically? Like, I don't know. Is there a story around that? Like, whoa, we have something really special on our hands.
Yeah, so I can't speak to like when the senior devs had that feeling, but well, first of all, thank you. That was really, really kind, and we love hearing that people are so into the game. It makes us so excited too. But for me, honestly, just like day 1 working with the company and playing the game with the senior devs and having it being taught to me, and then grasping the gameplay, but also feeling like there's such a high ceiling that I can keep playing and keep going towards. Jeremy's Worm, one of the best players of just card games in general. I remember on day 1 I was playing against him, and I had heard about how great he is at games, and me, brand new, being paired up like, oh god, how is this gonna work? He's just gonna destroy me. And we had a really good back and forth, and it felt really natural and fun, and I didn't feel like overwhelmed at any point where I'm like, okay, this is something special. I can compete with the best, and I still feel like it's a good time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the greatest thing about this game is you never have a moment where, like, even when you lose, it's like, hey, I still got to play. I still got to interact. and you still got to do things that feel good in the game, even if you lose by a wide margin. And that's something that I'm like, hey, when I lose too, it's like you can learn from it as well. Yeah.
No, yeah, I've had a blast playing this with my coworkers who made the game, and I've had a blast playing this with my friends who have never touched it before, and I introduced the rules to them. It's great in both scenarios, and I think that's something really, really special.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I taught my wife how to play. She loves traditional board games like Catan and Cribbage and things like that, and I taught her to play in probably 5 minutes. Yeah. But then when we played, she actually ended up beating me. I played Vader, she played Luke, the starter decks, and she beat me. And I was like, and she's like, are you trying to lose? I'm like, no, you actually beat me.
Yeah.
we have a
almost word for word the exact same experience. My wife, the first game I taught was the starter decks, of course. And she caught on so fast and then won in the end. And I'm like, wow, okay, this is good. This is a great back and forth that we can do this.
Absolutely. And, I probably have played this game for hundreds of hours at this point, maybe a little too much. And I'm like, my wife just beat me in the first game. All right, this game's amazing. So, or one of my best friends who I played Magic with my whole life, I taught him how to play. He was a bit intimidated because he knows him and I have like that friendship competition. Yeah. And he ended up beating me in one of our first games. And he's like, wow, he's like, this game's really fun. And he's playing the game now. So
awesome.
So I'm gonna ask a couple more general questions here.
Yeah.
And so one question I have here is, has there been any thought into the game or like into events or anything? Like, what is the current status of making this game fun to watch for spectators? Because I know events are coming. I guess how have you thought about that, and how to facilitate that as a game? I don't know if you're involved in that. I'm just curious if you have any input.
Yeah, it's a good question, and we have a whole organized play department devoted to that. But one thing that we've noticed while designing and while testing the game is that you'll often kind of stop if you're working on something else and just watch the people next to you and see the hype moments kind of emerging. And that happens organically all the time. And when we do see things like that, we want to kind of preserve those interactions or those combos and make sure that like people out in the world will also be able to experience that, because it's so much fun to watch and it's so exciting to see that happen.
Combination of cards or even like deck archetypes that are really popular right now that weren't really highly rated or weren't sort of reviewed in testing. Is anything surprising in like the tournament results to you personally based off of testing?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because a lot of what we've seen are things that we did kind of predict. Like we watched, okay, here's aggro emerging, and here's the mid-range that beats that, and there's the control that beats that, and then the rock, paper, scissors kind of starts to happen.
Yeah.
I think the biggest surprise for me is how willing a lot of players are to play certain cards out of aspect. Like Vigilance is the big one right now. That's been wildly popular, and we see plays like that sometimes in the office, but that's become a lot more meta than we were originally expecting, and that's always fun to watch. We knew there'd be surprises. So
cool. All right, so the last question I have about the game and product, I guess, is what's the reasoning, and by the way, I'm a huge fan of this, but what's the reasoning with the simple releases? And what I mean by simple is not like in a certain way, but I guess the scope of product. You guys are just releasing booster boxes and then starter decks for the next set and the current set that is out. What's the thought process behind that compared to something like Magic, where they have multiple products and like variants and special treatment product? I guess if you want to talk through that at all, and kind of your opinion of it.
Yeah. So this goes back to something that I've mentioned before in accessibility. We want to make sure that this game is attainable as much as possible and that you know what you're getting to. So if we just have those products that you mentioned, it's a lot more straightforward. It's like, do I want the contained 1v1 experience with the starter decks, or do I want to start building decks or going to draft or anything else that can be covered by booster box and booster packs? So the more that the customer can understand, the better.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think, just speaking for Star Wars Unlimited, I think that definitely decreases the complexity barrier to getting into the game, because when there's too many products or too many things going on, like even the friends that I tried to get into the game, they're like, well, they asked a bunch of questions and I was like, oh, no. None of those things exist. There's only a booster box and a starter deck. Because they asked me like, what do I get? Do they have this? Do they have that? There's special treatments. But it's nice that you get one product. And if you want special treatments, they're in the booster boxes. So that it's all in that one product. And I think that really makes it, I'll just speak from my perspective, like a very streamlined.
Yeah, and TCGs can be intimidating. So if we can make it a little bit more welcoming, that's great.
Absolutely. All right, so let's pivot to the specific card design questions, which will segue into the spoilers. So I only have 2 questions here. Is like, what is your favorite card in the Spark of Rebellion set and why? And then, we'll ask the question about the favorite card you design. You can explain why you can't answer that one.
Yeah, both great questions. Favorite card in Spark of Rebellion always changes. It depends on what I've been playing more recently and how it fits into the current sets that I've been playing a lot. But a top of my head right now is Millennium Falcon. A lot of the time I've answered Cunning in the past, and I do love that card because it does do so many different things. But the more that I've played with the Falcon, the more combos I see, the more unique interactions, the more games that it wins me out of nowhere, which is always a fun surprise to pull that off. I think that card is really, really strong, and I love using it.
Yeah, I'd say Falcon's up there for me. My current favorite card is Sneak Attack. It's got Falcon on it, so come on. I love the synergy where the anti-synergy where you have to sacrifice Falcon before you can bounce them. So I shed a tear for that right there. Yeah. But all right, so the question that you probably can't answer, maybe you can roundabout answer, is what is your favorite card that you have personally designed?
Yes. So like I said, I joined in set 2, and the cards that I've designed in there have not been spoiled yet. So my favorite card overall is probably in set 5. So I'll just leave that and let everyone wonder about that for a year. But within set 2, my favorite is a yellow upgrade. And I don't think I can say much more than that. But
yeah, leave it at that.
Yep.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, Cunning is my favorite color. So anytime anyone says something cool is coming in yellow, I'm like, sign me up. Great set. And with that being said, we can share one of 2 spoilers today, which I'll just flash them on the screen for everyone. So the first one is going to be card number 143. It's a rare. It's an upgrade. It is Villainy, Aggression, and it is Ruthlessness. Do you want to talk through this card?
Yeah. So if you've ever watched me play on stream, you know that I love the upgrades. I think the deck I always bring out involves Churret and throwing a bunch of lightsabers on him, and it's a blast. One problem with that is you're putting all your eggs in one basket, and that basket can only aim at one thing, either a unit or a base. Ruthlessness is nice in that it lets you split that a little bit. You use your big unit to defeat an enemy unit, you still get a little chip damage on the base, and it's really nice for that.
Absolutely. Obviously there's a Mandalorian on the art, and immediately I was thinking, Boba Fett as the unit is going to really take advantage of this, because Boba Fett as a unit wants to attack in 2 units, the legendary one. And this allows you, like you said, to get in that chip damage. And Boba Fett's so good at taking out leaders because they don't enter play, right? You can get that 6 damage. Now you can get 7 damage off of 8 damage off of a Boba Fett attack, and Boba Fett's probably going to live with that 5 toughness.
Yep.
So I think already immediately I'm thinking of that combo, and there's probably a lot more coming in the next set. So yeah, I'm really excited to see more upgrades, cheap upgrades too, because I think, to your point, putting all your eggs in one basket sometimes is a little scary, especially when those upgrades end up taking up all your resources for a turn. So this feels like a very low commitment upgrade, which I like.
Yeah. And it's not too expensive. It's in a decent range where you can play this and a unit probably in the same turn, depending where you are in the game. But
yeah. Great. And let's talk through the second spoiler here.
Mhm.
Card number 150, Casca Reeves, Loyal Night Owl. It is a ground unit. It's aggression, heroism. And I have some thoughts about this with cards that have been recently spoiled, but I kind of want to let you talk through this card and kind of its interaction with the set.
Yeah, Casca's actually pretty similar to what I had talked about with Ruthlessness, in that you're able to split the damage a little bit, and that is really, really nice. But this time it's coming from the unit itself and not exclusively from the upgrade. You have to combo that together.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to point out that Casca is a 4/5, which is currently the highest power and toughness combination at 4 resources in the game. It's tied with Kanan and I believe Bosk. So unless there's something else in set 2, she will be probably one of the best statted 4-drops in the game. And I actually, it's interesting to me because I'm starting to see the design of this set a little bit, and I know this is probably intended, but you guys have already spoiled some 0-drop upgrades. You could bounty your own unit to then, get an upgrade on it and get the attack trigger. And also, if your opponent upgrades your unit, you get the benefit. So you don't want to upgrade this thing. You don't want to put a bounty on this thing because that will actually give it additional abilities. So I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, that's a really, really good note. 0 cost anything is instantly going to be very, very strong. And yes, there's a downside to bountying your own thing, but hey, sometimes you need that extra damage, and Casca's a great way to get that. No, there's so many fun interactions between bounties and upgrades in this set, and I just love it. And I don't want to talk too much or else I'm going to say something I'm not supposed to, but yeah.
Yeah, Xander's going to send you an email after this. I'm just kidding. Yeah, these are really exciting. Thank you for allowing me to share these with the community. These are super cool. I was happy to get 2 rares to share. Yeah, so that wraps up our questions. Is there anything else? Any questions you have for me? Any questions you want to ask the community in the comments? Any additional thoughts or just general comments you wanted to make before we wrap things up?
I guess, what are your favorite cards? We talked about this a little bit with me, but I'd love to hear more of what your number ones are. I know you said you like Cunning a lot, but
yeah, let me see. Let me pull up the card database really quick. Let me see. Set. Okay, let me see. Oh, this is a tough one.
Yeah, I get asked this all the time, and my answer is always a little bit different, but
I'm going to give you 2 answers. One is going to be what's my favorite card effect, and my second is going to be my favorite art in set 1.
Ooh, good one.
Because I had a lot of opinions before the set released, and now when I saw cards in person, it hits you different when you hold a card in person and you get to see, okay, you know what, a screen doesn't really show the shading as much as I would like.
Especially seeing a hyperspace foil, that's always really exciting, and sometimes it makes the art that much better.
All right, so my favorite art, I think I have an answer for that. All right, I said Sneak Attack. This is my other card that I'm gonna say I wildly underrated, and now I'm I love this card. It's got to be Black One. Yep. A lot. I feel like early on there was a lot of this card's interesting. It's not great. And when I play with it, I'm drawing 3 cards? Are you kidding me? Ancestral Recall? Draw 3 cards is very strong.
Drawing cards is hard in this game, and Black One lets you do it a lot more efficiently than anything else in set 1.
Yeah, I would definitely say that's got to be my. I actually have that card in hyperspace foil, so it looks amazing. It's got the bullet pew pew going to the edge of the screen. And then I'd say my favorite art, and this was not until recently. Some guy opened up at a weekly play at a local game store. He got his pack for coming to trade and interact with the community, and he opened it. He didn't get a rare. He didn't get a legendary or a rare he wanted. Then he hit the hyperfoil. Hyperfoil Kanan is one of the most beautiful cards in the game. He's deflecting a blaster, so there's blasters going both ways, and his lightsaber glows, and it's orange all around.
Yeah, the orange background. I was gonna say.
Yep, and I don't play that card in any deck, but when I saw that, I'm do you want to trade for that? And he's like, no. So yeah, I definitely think it's got to be Kanan for my current favorite art. I feel like I'm a moving target a little bit with that, which is a good thing.
Yeah, I think so too.
Too much to love. So awesome. Well, thank you so much, Joe, for coming. Definitely, if y'all liked this, please like, comment, subscribe. Be great. So thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And I'm excited to see what's to come for set 2.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. Excited to see everyone's reactions. It's a blast.